The No Kings protest happened on June 14, 2025, which also happens to be on Flag Day, as well as the 250th anniversary of the United States Army, and by coincidence, Trump's 79th birthday. So what is the No Kings protest? It primarily is a protest against the current president of the United States, Donald Trump, who currently is serving in his second term. Besides Trump being Trump, a major grievance was the military parade celebrating the 250th anniversary of the United States Army, and by coincidence, Trump's 79th birthday. Now, military parades near Washington, D.C. aren't new. For example, there was a parade after the Civil War, during the inaugurations of President Eisenhower and JFK, and most recently at the end of the Gulf War.
Arrival of additional forces, and that they indeed did.
Anyways, the Army parade went smoothly, with displays of aircraft and modern and historical vehicles, as well as soldiers marching in various different uniforms representing different eras of U.S. Army history, such as the American Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, the Global War on Terrorism, and the modern era. U.S. Park Service and the National Guard elements present in the area provided security for the parade, and it went quite smoothly. I find it to be a great show. So how about the No Kings protests? How did they go, and how about their impact? Well, I wasn't looking at it myself. Managing Glow So Bright's S2 shop is exhausting. I needed to touch grass. So I ended up hiking 14 miles and now my legs hurt. A lot. Operational tempo has increased with monitoring the LA riots and posting on reports on non-state armed groups, and I need to slow down and I need to catch up on my PT backlog. The No Kings protests were mostly peaceful. However, turnout and participation of these protests by the direct party seemed to be relatively small. The demographics of these protests were of mostly elderly, neoliberal, and progressive people, and the impact of their actions seemed quite minimal. Where were they located? Nationwide, from urban cities to smaller rural towns. However, turnout in these rural areas are quite minimal. However, many local and state governments were wary about it becoming out of hand, especially by third-party agitators, internal participants causing fights, or having it mesh with anti-ICE riots and protests, mirroring earlier violence in Los Angeles, Seattle, Austin, and other cities. So, who were behind the No Kings protests? Short answer, American oligarchs and anti-Trump politicians. This is corporate activism astroturfing as a grassroots movement. Who specifically? I'll list a few. Christy Walton, the heir to Walmart and having $17.8 billion worth of assets, ran a large, full-page color advertisement on the New York Times on June 8, 2025. Indivisible, an organization as reported by the Times of Israel in the title, Meet the Jewish Couple Leading the Trump Resistance, is a major player behind this as well. If I didn't have a source from literally the Times of Israel, it would have sounded like satire or some sort of conspiracy theory. Good lord. Their involvement in No Kings is straight up corporate astroturfing cosplaying as grassroots. Nor, one of the reps for Indivisible was front and center on a Zoom call for an initial brief to train, quote, peacekeepers and marshals. Okay. Picture an hour-long HR seminar from a soulless megacorp, naive, jargon-heavy, and totally detached from how real-world protests can spiral out of control. It's like they think waving spines and singing Kumbaya will stop a MAGA rally or Antifa bike lockings. The brief was so mind-numbing they could double as a sleep aid. Leaked training videos from Glow So Bright show Indivisible's obsession with optics and control, but they're clueless about handling actual security risks or agitators. After falling asleep on my desk and having my brain cells fried trying to record this, I left and grabbed food. Then we have 50501, a lesser known but polarizing group that has caught major heat from the radical left, who brand them as traitors to the cause. The accusations, colluding with cops, playing by the rules, and, believe it or not, actually applying for protest permits from local authorities like some sort of law-abiding normie. 50501 is literally a Reddit organization founded by Redditor named Evolved Fungi, with a composition of people as what you expect from Reddit. So take it as you will. Apparently it means 50 states, 50 protests, one movement, whatever. California Congressman Representative Eric Swalwell, on a video published on his official X page, encouraged people to attend the No Kings protest. Yes, that politician who was with the Chinese spy Fong Fong. That one.
Let me say, is the second most senior member of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem needs to come to our committee and answer questions. ICE needs to show their faces. No more masks like 1,800 bank robbers or Russian KGB agents in the streets. And stop terrorizing families. So what can you do at home? It's No King's Day this Saturday. 2,000 rallies across America. Americans need to show up, because if we don't show up, democracy dies.
So what were some incidents that happened during these No Kings protests? For the most part, mostly peaceful, with most of them going on where nothing happens. Other times it was mostly peaceful where we had active shooters with death, vehicle rammings, and other high-profile incidents. Artur Gamboa, a 24-year-old Antifa-affiliated individual, was wearing all-black clothing similar to Black Bloc, and was apparently armed with a rifle at State Street, and was engaged by two individuals wearing lime green safety vests with gunfire, claimed to be event peacekeepers, according to an official statement by the Salt Lake City Police Department. One of the three peacekeepers shot at Gamboa 3 times, where Gamboa was grazed. An unintended victim, Alu, was fatally shot. In total, 3 people were taken to custody by law enforcement, 2 peacekeepers and Gamboa. In Washington State, in Seattle, an independent journalist, Cam Higbee, was assaulted by Antifa-affiliated individuals when covering demonstrations on federal property. Higbee suffered from a concussion and had his pro-mask be tampered with, and it was attempted to have his pockets and property to be stolen. Other armed elements were present in Seattle as covered by Higbee, such as individuals who claim to be Black Panthers but don't seem to be part of the organization, openly carrying firearms on federal property. There were a few vehicle ramming incidents during No Kings protests throughout the country. In Riverside, California, there was another vehicle ramming incident. A hit and run has occurred. According to Riverside Police Department, the incident happened downtown around 9:40 p.m. local time on University Avenue near the intersection with Orange Street. Joseph R. Cheklik Jr. was arrested for the charge of reckless driving by the Culpeper Police Department, where he allegedly drove an SUV into a crowd of protesters. In San Francisco, a suspect has conducted a hit and run in the Mission District. NBC News reported 4 individuals were struck by a vehicle, while SFPD only reports a single individual being struck. If you want to hear an eyewitness account on their experience at a No Kings protest, check out the account on Security Guy 42's page on YouTube or BitChute. Link in the video description down below. Also subscribe to the channel. Over at Miami, Florida, 2 individuals were dressed in Temu tactical gear to impersonate ICE agents, Rolando Leviel and his son Anthony. While not directly connected to the No Kings protest nor the ICE protests, a major incident has occurred in Minnesota, which targeted politicians and their family at their residences. Senator John Hoffman and his wife, Yvette, were shot and wounded by the suspect at approximately 0200 local time. Law enforcement also sent out to check on former House Speaker Melissa Hartman's residence as well, as her home was also near the area. Former House Speaker Melissa Hartman and her husband, Mark, were killed in their Brooklyn Park home early Saturday. As the suspect was finished in the killing, police discovered the dead body of Mark Hartman at the residence, and using a police drone as reconnaissance, discovered Melissa's corpse inside the home. After backup was called and SWAT arrives to the Hartman residence, gunfire was exchanged between police and the suspect. The suspect then fled the scene. While at large, the FBI then identified the suspect as Vance Boltier as the primary suspect for the assassinations for murder, offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to his arrest. The Boltier family is a politically well-connected and wealthy family in Minnesota, where they own several businesses. Vance himself was appointed to the Workforce Development Council in 2016 by then-Governor Mark Dayton. Later, the Workforce Development Board in 2019 by Governor Tim Walz. Inside Boltier's vehicle, several photocopied No Kings flyers and his signature cowboy hat were found. His vehicle was discovered about 3 miles from his home in Green Isle. What these No Kings flyers means, no one knows. Boltier was then apprehended in Sibley County on Sunday evening by authorities. Boltier's motivations are politically motivated, but the exact details are unknown as time of reporting. In conclusion, we have figured out that the people behind the No Kings protests are astroturfing by American oligarchs and politicians. While the protests themselves are low impact, there have been some high-profile incidents of violence in the area, especially between internal peacekeepers and marshals, whatever that means, and outside agitators. At the same time, there was a high-profile assassination in Minnesota. With a fog of information and the stories rapidly developing, it is a large challenge to document all of this. Please like, comment, and subscribe to this report by Glow So Bright. If you want to look at the sources down below, check out the video description and text version of this video in the video description down below. If you want to financially support the channel, subscribe to the Subscribestar link and the Ko-fi page. However, the best way to show support is to engage, like, comment, subscribe, and share. It really means a lot and helps defeat slop. Thank you very much for watching on what is the No Kings protest, why, who's behind it, and what happened. Thank you very much.